Everybody to another edition of the Greater Palm Bay Chamber of Commerce Chamber Chat. My name is Nancy Pelton and I'm President and CEO of the Greater Palm Bay Chamber of Commerce. You know, we were just talking about this, and since March the 17th, we have had 22 virtual webinars. So for those of you that have Zoom fatigue, thank you for joining us. We also are live streaming this on Facebook. So we know that we get a lot of views on Facebook. So you can always revisit this. It also is on our YouTube channel. So there's lots of ways, if you are not getting to see this live, that you're able to see any of our past chamber chats. And I was actually just saying Nathan Bouwsma was on our April the 16th webinar. And at that time, we were discussing cybersecurity and what businesses need to be aware of working from home. So we're excited to be able to now, I think, take a breath. We've been working from home for a while now, and you know, now it's, for some businesses, I think virtualizing their offices may be their future. We're realizing that we don't all need to have the brick and mortars. We can work from home and be very, very productive. So very much looking forward to this chamber chat this afternoon. Coming up, the chamber has on Tuesday, it's our Brevard Business Professionals, and you know Shannon Gronage is our chairwoman of that group and just does a fabulous job. So it will be early in the morning. We're making you get up. You know, it's time to start getting back in the early morning routines. So 8 to 9:30 is when that will be happening. We'll be doing virtual networking, breaking you out into rooms. And that's always kind of neat to be able to do those one-on-ones or the table of four. And then on the 29th, so on Friday, Caroline is going to lead our membership optimization. I already have somebody that wants to sign up for that. Renee, I was talking to her this morning, so she wants to be part of that because we're realizing that a lot of people have not filled out their profiles, and these guys can tell you. So Morsecom, they know search engine optimization is very important for your ranking. So we want to make sure that you fill out your profiles 100%, that you're putting in great keywords, that you're putting in photos, videos, anything that you have. We do not charge extra for that. We allow you to fill up your profile to the max so that you get great exposure through the chamber. And we have a lot of views that go through our website, and sometimes the ranking, your ranking through the chamber is higher than your own website directly. So very important. And you know, Caroline is the expert. She's amazing. She'll be sharing her screen so you can see exactly, you can follow along with your phone and then play with your computer and fill it out as she's going along. So that's next Friday. I think this is our last webinar for the week that the chamber's doing. Woohoo. Not my last one, unfortunately, but that's okay. We, you know, I think it's a great time for personal and professional development and putting together protocols in place for your own businesses. So I have rattled on enough, and I am now going to turn this over to Manne Strand. He is with Morsecom Communications. The chamber uses them. They are fabulous and have kept us up and running, and so we certainly appreciate them. But I will turn it over to very good hands now with Manne.
Thank you, Nancy. Carolina, thank you, Chamber, for allowing us to be a part of your chamber chat. We have some special guests with us today, and today we're going to be talking about virtualizing your business. So with us today, we have Pedro Sedano, who is our VP of Information Technology for Bears Furniture. And Bears Furniture is a family-owned organization, business since 1945. And we've been a business partner of Bears Furniture, and they're a great member of our community here in Brevard County. We also have Nathan Bouwsma, Director of IT Services at Morsecom, and Dominic, who is our cloud specialist at Morsecom. And just briefly, many of you know us already, but for those of you that may not know us, Morsecom is a technology managed service provider. We've recently celebrated 26 years in Brevard County as a part of the community. We support customers in 38 states and are headquartered right here in Melbourne. And lastly, my name is Manne Strand, and I've had the privilege of working with all of the folks that will be a part of our presentation today. And I wanted to give a big shout out to all of the local businesses who are working extremely hard to find a path forward in this new normal that we find ourselves in. And I think we'd be remiss if we didn't start out with the 800-pound gorilla in the room, and that's the pandemic and COVID-19 and how it's impacted all of our businesses. And Pedro, that's where I really wanted to start out with you. Can you share with us a little bit about how Bears has fared during the pandemic and some of the things that you've done to continue to be successful and viable in the world that we live in today?
Okay, hi guys. As you guys know, I'm Pedro. I've been at Bears for over 30 years. Bears have been around for over 75 years, and we are basically a furniture retail company that sells furniture. It's been a long road for me to get where I am right now, and it's put me in different hats, and I've learned to deal with a lot of things throughout my career. And a few other things is my different management techniques I've picked up along the way. My typical management technique, which is you plan, process, test, implement, maintain. And then I have my other technique, which I call crisis management, which I'm sure a lot of people in the IT world know what that is. And you deal with a problem as it comes up, you work on it, and then it solves. This COVID-19 put me into a different category now, and I call it my pandemic management category, which is you have no idea where it's going, but you just have to deal with it one day at a time as it comes about. And there's no light basically at the end of the tunnel right now, because as much as I see in the world today that everybody is hoping for the best, nobody really knows what the best is. So planning for that is kind of hard. So where that left us is basically one day at a time. We meet daily as a management team. We go over all the strategies. We do what the local governments and the local agencies allow us to do. And then we keep on ticking. And our environment, because we are basically a brick and mortar company, and we spend a lot of our time with our customers in the store, one-on-one with our salespeople, it hit us hard in the beginning, because the main thing is we had to close down all our stores. All 16 of our stores had to close. And you could prepare for a lot of things, but you can't prepare for no income. So our online sales department was functioning, and we were in the process of revamping it up to get more presence of online sales. But unfortunately, we weren't there yet, and we're still not there yet, as we've come to know with this pandemic. We spend a lot of resources in it, and we have planned as much as we could prior, but obviously we could tell it, we could see now it was not enough to deal with something like this. Our main concern at Bears when we started was first to keep our employees safe, keep our customers safe, and function in whatever capacity we could have. And what that meant for us is that we still could have kept our warehouses open and our corporate office open. So we were able to function in the capacity that we were able to deliver furniture to any of our customers that wanted delivery still, and keep our main departments over. Our IT department, our human resources department was very critical in a situation like this. Our online sales department was very critical in this. Our customer relations department, we were able to keep open. Our operations department, because we still had some warehouse staff to deliver the furniture, some delivery staff to deliver the furniture. Receiving, because even though our departments, nobody was open, we still had furniture in transit, so we still had to receive it. So it threw a lot of different curveballs at us. Planning for it was day to day, as I said, and all we could have done is offer our employees the tools they needed to keep their jobs, get their jobs done, the critical ones that we needed. we were lucky in a lot of ways in that we are a Citrix environment, Citrix cloud environment. So all of our applications are in the cloud. And so any of our users could access our system once they have access to a computer and the internet. So they could log in anywhere in the world and do their job because they'll have access to all their critical applications, their files, or whatever they needed. Also, what was critical, what was important to us and which was great to us is that we had a company like Mors on our team that we built an infrastructure that we have our IP, Mitel IP environment, which allowed us to have our employees work from home like I am right now on my phone from home, but I'm really like if I'm working at my desk because my phone follows me wherever I go. So communication and access to our data and our infrastructure was critical in keeping our environment open for our people who needed to do their jobs at home and still do their jobs at home efficiently because we had those systems in place. We did have some setbacks because certain things you can't plan for. You can't plan for payroll company. I mean, our payroll company is online, but certain things that we usually do, some of our employees still like live checks, and to get the live checks, you have to print them and all that. So there are some things that we had to do on the fly that was, it took us a quick time to do something that usually take us a short time to do, to convert everybody to direct deposit and all that, certain things, simple stuff like that. Another thing we did on the fly was produce reports that we usually had to send out to every salesperson. We converted it all in using, what do we use? API hooking up to our main database, and we're able to email those reports directly to the salespeople, so they didn't have to depend on their regular reports coming to them via paper. So we will be doing a lot of things on the go. Another thing we did do is our delivery tracking and reporting tool that we use for our company. We allowed us to develop an app for us where we could, when we deliver the furniture to the customer's home, rather than give the customer our device to sign, we were able to send the app, text to the customer's phone where they open it, sign that document, and it will be sent back to our database with their signature approving the delivery. So we didn't have no contact on our delivery with the customer, which was pretty cool. In my world, I'm always continuing to look at anything in the IT world that will benefit our environment and automate it and expand on it to make our company stay abreast with what's going on. And this forced me to do a lot more research and development on the e-commerce side, which I'm looking into. And unfortunately, though, there's only so much we could do on e-commerce in our industry because furniture people need to touch, they like to feel, they like to look at the different fabrics, they need to be inside the store. So the way we're doing it is that we use our e-commerce to sell furniture, but we also use it as leads to get the customer into our stores, as we have so many of them around the state. We are, as I said, a brick and mortar company, and we depend heavily on our customer interaction with our salespeople. And unfortunately, with the pandemic and the social distancing and the masks wearing, it's kind of hard to do that right now, but we're dealing with it. And we're using all the technology we have to keep it going. Another thing we did, we went to credit card, touchless credit cards, where customer doesn't have to touch their credit cards when we go into the stores. A lot of stuff we're doing on the fly. And unfortunately, it's not written in stone, and it's every day there's new challenges. We had to put up special protection gear in the stores for the customer. I mean, plexiglass, like what we have in the grocery stores. So a lot of stuff. But all in all, it's still an ongoing learning experience for us at BS.
Pedro, I really appreciate you being so open and candid. There isn't a playbook for this. Even an organization like yourself that has very particular management styles and adoption styles of technology, genuinely appreciate you sharing from your heart the challenges that you've had, what you've done to overcome those challenges. And we're going to get more into that and some of the things specifically that Pedro brought up. Before we do that, Dominic, I'm going to ask you the same question. Morsecom, a technology company, how has Morsecom fared throughout the pandemic? We're a part of the community here in Brevard. Tell me a little bit about your experience.
Yeah. Yes. Thanks, Manny. Yeah. Well, first and foremost, I just want to take a second and thank, all of the local businesses, the essential workers, the first responders in the community, that, have pushed us all forward and kept everything rolling, through these trying times. And also just huge thank you to the Palm Bay Chamber. You guys have been awesome throughout everything that's been going on, and I can't speak highly enough for how much you've helped the community and the local businesses, but as well our business here locally. And just to jump into what we have been doing on the Morsecom side, we've been staying busy, right? Working side by side with our clients to ensure that they are set up and have the ability to keep their business going with a smooth transition to remote. Over the past 75 days, we've assisted over 7,000, over 75 days, we've transitioned over 7,000 employees to an office environment, and ensure that they're, able to keep up and running and have all the tools that they need at their disposal. I can't stress enough how important it is for businesses in today's world to make sure that, harping on what Pedro said, it's you got to have a plan in place in today's world to work remotely. It's not anymore if we can work remotely, it's we have to work remotely. Some of the early objections and obstacles that we see with businesses are, security concerns, levels of productivity amongst their workforce, and feeling like they need to be in an office to have full access to everything at their disposal that they need to get their jobs done. And we utilize a lot of the collaboration platforms and different solutions that Nathan's about to cover today, to ease these concerns and help businesses set up the new norm, as you said, Manny, set up the new norm for the time being as we transition through this pandemic. And I can't say how proud I am of the community again, and all of the businesses coming together, and us teaming up and being able to pull through this together.
Thank you, Dom. It's kind of funny. I have been in technology for many, many years, and I have talked to hundreds, if not thousands, of clients about a mobile workforce and the ability to have an in-office experience anywhere. And I have been met with objections like, we need to be in brick and mortar, we need to be in the office, it's more productive. And then 3 months ago, a light switch changes, and I'm not having a conversation with customers about a mobile workforce. I'm getting calls from customers saying, I need to move my office workers home, and I need it done today. And Dominic, I echo what you said. Our team and the ability to move over 7,000 people out of a brick and mortar environment into a home workforce. So Nathan, I've had that same experience that Dom's had in talking with customers, move them out lately. And Nancy, you said it earlier, I've seen more virtual meetings. I've had more discussions on virtual desktop. I am zoomed out right now. But there is a common thread here of a virtual workspace at home, a virtual meeting. And Nathan, I know some customers were more prepared than others. Pedro was kind enough to share with us the things that were easier, the things he had prepared for, the things that were harder, and all of us have experienced that. There is nobody that is unique to that. Nathan, can you tell me just a little bit about preparations, who were prepared, what made it easy, and maybe we get into a little bit about virtualization and what that might mean to an organization today that might be, that a company may be a little bit more open to than they might have been 3 or 4 months ago.
Yeah, there's been a big overall shift in organizations. It's one thing to plan something and execute because you're anticipating it. And to echo what everyone said during this session, when you don't know what's coming and have it drop on you, or someone to pull the rug out from underneath you, it's fairly catastrophic when you don't have a plan. And the reason why I think our organization has stayed and maintained as busy as we have is to assist organizations that didn't necessarily plan to have something like this occur. Everybody gets prepared for hurricanes, right, where we're from, right? It's very easy for us in Florida to know when a storm is coming, what do we need to do? You prep your house, you make sure you got food, you fill your bathtub up, you know, all the stuff that we do that's just muscle memory. And the interesting thing about what we're dealing with now is that something happened that we didn't prepare for, yet we're still 100% responsible for doing some of our work, right? If you're in sales, if you own a business like many of you do, we weren't able to turn off. And that's the piece that really propelled our organization to mobilize and to assist organizations to just flat out get people safe and home, which is what all the business owners were attempting to try to do. And the bottom line is that sometimes this type of functionality, this type of technology is an afterthought because it's not needed from a most of the time perspective. But I would really strive to drive home to anybody and everybody that's listening to ensure that you have a plan. We all know how important it is now. And speaking to whomever maintains your infrastructure, your IT, you have an IT provider, an IT guy. If you're one of our customers and you haven't planned for this, just speak to whomever maintains that and try to draft a plan so that you know what to expect and your employees know what to expect when something like this happens again.
Thank you, Nathan. So take us through, a lot of us might not even know what questions to ask our IT provider. Give us the foundation for what virtualizing means to a small business or a medium-sized business.
Yeah, no problem. So virtualization is an interesting topic that's being transformed, right? Formerly, and I'm going to show this next slide, this is what people knew from a virtualization standpoint. So on the left-hand side, a traditional architecture that you can think of that as something as simple as your email platform, right? Or a file server that's in your office. That's the orange area, right? That's the application. That application rides on top of some sort of an operating system. And then that operating system is installed on a server, right? That's a traditional architecture. If you look over to the right-hand side, what virtualization does is it decouples the one-to-one relationship of operating system to hardware by inserting what's known as a hypervisor to maintain and allow you to drive up occupancy. I often use the analogy when we're talking to an organization that has 50 servers that are all purpose-built for things, right? That's our database server, that's our email server, that's our file server, that's our whatever server. And try to treat it more so like what a hotelier would look at it, right? So if you manage and maintain a hotel, what do you need to do to be successful? And the first thing they're going to say is to you is they want people occupying their rooms. And the same thing goes for servers and for architecture. You don't want to have an application running on an operating system that's using 10 to 20% of the resources in that server, right? You would call that significantly over provisioned, right? You have all this excess. So virtualization in a technology way has really been to drive up the occupancy on a server, meaning you don't want to see a server that's running at 20% utilization. You want to see a server that's running, you know, somewhere near 80 to 90+%. And then when you need more capacity, you add more servers. And for organizations out there that have this type of approach from a application delivery standpoint, be it again email servers, file servers, it lessens your overall hardware sprawl, which means that your IT footprint shrinks quite a bit. So that's what it means from a virtualization standpoint. And I can go on for hours on everything else that's been virtualized behind that, right? We have virtualized networking. We have the next wave of what we would consider virtualization to pioneer, which is a serverless, you know, cloud-based technologies. And there's lots of different topics to talk about there. So what does virtualization provide you? Number one, okay, you virtualized everything. Now what do you get? What can you reap on investing in that? And the first thing is you can sustain platform failures, meaning historically, if you had your email sitting on top of a server and that server failed, your email was down. With virtualization, and I'm showing here VMware's specific flavor of this, you have the ability to ensure that your IT environment orchestrates the migration of critical resources depending on what server is busy and what server is not busy to help balance. And when there's an overall failure or a failure that the servers can sense, there's a proactive approach to move that critical application to a running platform. And other things that it brings into play, like automatic boot, right? So if the server fails and all those virtual machines that were running on that platform are automatically rebooted on another available server in your architecture. Along with that, VMware and Microsoft and KVM and others have built in additional capacity for scaling. So if you don't have the funding to scale your architecture on site, which means buying more servers, simply more licensing, you can bolt on public cloud services like Amazon, like Google Cloud Platform and various others to give you additional capacity when you're running out of space so that you can meet the next budgetary period to go ahead and acquire particular hardwares. So here's a kind of a busy slide with a few of the different players. So starting over at the 9 o'clock hour of this slide, we have OpenStack, which is a platform that a lot of cloud providers leverage. It handles a lot from a virtualization standpoint. We have Microsoft Hyper-V, which is Microsoft's flavor of virtualization. We have Citrix, which does both desktop application availability as well as infrastructure. And then right in the middle, we have VMware, which is a leading manufacturer of virtualization application technologies. Around the outside, moving from Oracle Cloud Platform to Google Cloud Platform, Microsoft Azure, and Amazon Web Services. Those are public cloud offerings that can dovetail into local infrastructure for more of a hybrid kind of approach. Our organization leverages the majority of these platforms, and you heard earlier that Pedro has mentioned that one of the critical pieces to his success in getting folks home was Citrix, right? That was one big step that he took to ensure that the end user, right, the mobilizing of the workforce was able to gain access to their applications as if they were working from a brick and mortar. So let me jump in real quick to a bit about your workforce. So from a premise perspective, if you take a look at the little picture on the right-hand side there, you have all of the different computers that are wrapped around a physical location. And that physical location, in the middle there, you have all of your applications. This is more of a traditional architecture. Lots of organizations have virtualized what they have, and it runs in a physical premise. So you centralize all your business applications. You are geographically reliant on that location, meaning if you don't have access to that building, some way, form, or fashion, you can't do your job, right? And then what does that mean when something like COVID-19 hits? So what we saw was a major shift for folks that were immediately reaching out to try to grab for capabilities to get line of business application access to their folks that are working from home. That posed a number of hurdles. Number one, unknown networks. Home networks and remote networks are kind of just like a hotel network. You don't really know what's on there. There's security concerns there. You need to make sure that endpoints are secured. But the biggest piece here and the biggest goal of cloud delivery of business applications is the ability to work from anywhere, right? You're no longer tied to that geographical location. Along with that, how do folks collaborate? One of the biggest concerns with, one of the biggest concerns when folks go and work from home, they don't have huddle areas, you don't have conference rooms, you don't have team meetings. So we all know, and we're using one now, we're leveraging Zoom. Collaboration becomes a big thing, right? This is where I'd like to see the balance sheets of how Zoom and Microsoft Teams and WebEx and all those companies are doing, because I guarantee like they are way up because people became immediately reliant on that. And this type of scenario became the new norm. User experience, right? Not just so from your workforce perspective that I'm used to being able to sit and print somewhere and I could use my scanner at work. And what does that line of business workforce look like from a user experience on the way that you are delivering them your critical applications, right? So for Bears Furniture, they were delivered a solution that they have already been using. Some of the folks might not have used it in the past, but it would be fairly well documented that folks that are out and about have a very clear understanding of how to utilize and leverage the applications. And it was muscle memory for them. Really important there that you're not dealing with a wave of how do I do my job with this new thing that you gave me. Very, very important that you pay attention to that. And then it's getting users access to the platform, right? What are you giving them access through? Are you providing access from any workstation, be it a tablet, smartphone, home computer? Does that matter to you? Other organizations went out and bought, in the tens or in the hundreds of laptops on a whim, just because Dell or HP or someone had a stockpile of those, and they bought them, loaded up their software, and they handed it off. Now, there's concerns there related to what the local network is. We all know that home networks are a little bit different than a corporate network, where you have advanced security mechanisms. And a lot of folks went home with a VPN connection to get them into that brick and mortar geolocation. And when they did that, they're opening up a lot of security concerns related to what I can see from my workstation into my corporate office. So things like ransomware become a big concern. Viruses become a big concern. So here's the security side. So from a very simple standpoint, you have your user in the middle of that picture. You need to be able to authenticate them, right? When you open up access to your previously secure geographical location, you know that you got to physically be inside these doors and only my employees are going to be there. When you open doors up for those employees to gain access, you immediately start becoming concerned about who else could gain access, and things like security threats and intrusion protection come into play. First and foremost, multi-factor authentication, leveraging Active Directory in Azure would be one. Google Authenticator would be another one. Simple SMS pushes. We see this day in and day out with our banking software. All of the applications that you deliver from the cloud or from your centralized organization also need to be protected in that same way, just to ensure you don't run into a scenario where someone has the ability to leverage some sort of a security exploit and brute force themselves in. Over to the right-hand side of that, you have your traditional antivirus, anti-malware platforms that you need to ensure are up to date. Just because your home office is up to date does not mean that your endpoints that are out amongst the rest of us running around trying to find toilet paper at stores are safe and secured. Along with that, the biggest piece here to take away is trying to pay attention to how you drive your workforce home and how you enable them from line of business application delivery secure and kind of make that a part of your normal corporate environment so that you're prepared and ready to go, not just for hurricanes, but for possibly what we may face later on in the future.
Nathan, that was excellent, and I really like the way that you walked through the environment today and kind of what we all felt. We needed to consume services differently in a different environment than we were used to consuming those. I think one of the things that I've found very clearly is one size doesn't fit all. And I think the way that Pedro walked through how they consume services is actually different in a way that we consume services. I work from home and I'm able to consume services. I don't use Citrix, but I have a number of applications that I consume web-based. I saw a number of questions come through. Nancy, we're finished with our presentation. We'd love to take a moment and extend an offer. I think it was Nathan that said, we encourage you to talk with your IT provider, your IT guy. And we do. We want you to have these conversations. I hope the information that was pushed gives you some food for thought on what conversations you might have. And I'd also like to extend the offer, if we can have a conversation with you, we'd love to have that conversation with you. I know Dominic and Rob, myself, and Nathan would be happy to sit down with anybody and walk through some of the scenarios that are right for your organization, because everybody is a little bit different. So Nancy, we'll turn it back to you. I know you've got some questions. I saw them popping up. Can you help us with that?
Absolutely. I think that Robert was typing to some. There was one question that didn't seem to get a response. It said, what policy changes would be needed to comply with NIST 800-171? That's very specific.
It is.
Hey, Louis.
Is that something to
Louis.
be addressed offline, or is
No.
that one that you can talk about?
No, I can touch on that if I may. Louis, thanks for joining on this chat as well. I know you joined a bit ago when we did the cybersecurity one. With the latest NIST guidelines for 800-171, you have to be able to maintain compliance. It's the number one piece. Since things are kind of shifting in that space and moving around, you have to follow all the guidelines as if you were on site. So ensuring that access into the environment, number one, is encrypted, making sure that you have an audit trail, multi-factor authentication, all of the same pieces that you would pull into a local instance of leveraging application or consuming applications, everything from encryption for distribution of email, point-to-point encryption, point-to-point file sharing, things of that sort also need to be maintained. So you can't lose sight of that just because you're trying to keep your folks occupied and your folks up and running. So all of those same guidelines fall into place. And a lot of those guidelines, as you know from the last chat, I think we pointed you in the direction of one of our partners on the lawyer side to basically ensure that you pay attention to what is actionable upon your company, to make sure that you have visibility and traction to what you need to be doing to secure it. So same guidelines are in place, just as if you were local, regardless if you're remote. So those requirements for encryption are the biggest one, and multi-factor authentication.
And for the rest of us on the call, Nathan gets into the compliance side. NIST is a very strict compliance and adherence set of protocols. So I know there's a lot of companies that aren't bound by NIST, but thank you for that, Louis and Nathan, for digging into that. Okay.
We also have some people that literally don't have computers with cameras even. They are at the bare basics trying to figure out how to run their business. This is not their skill set. So if they don't have a virtual environment, what are some suggestions to even get them started on moving to that system, or what they need to consider? I mean, I know, you guys are at very high levels, but for a lot of our members, that's really, they aren't at this high tech level. And, those are the ones that seem to get hacked the easiest. So what are some sort of absolute basics that they need to look at to make sure they have in place, and what they can do right now to secure their business?
I can take that one. So from a consumption perspective, right, what can businesses do today? The good news is that I believe a lot of organizations, like everyone out here listening, consume some sort of line of business application from the cloud today, right? The first one that pops probably to everyone's mind is going to be Office 365 or G Suite, right, which is Google's business platform to be able to provide things like mail, file transfer, and applications therein. So when it comes to other applications that required for, let's say it's inventory or an ERP or back office software, accounting platforms, when you're looking to select that, you really need to pay attention to the delivery approach of that manufacturer. Is the manufacturer built to be able to be consumed in a cloud environment? And I would try to swing folks much to the slide that I showed secondarily, which is if your applications are not readily available from the start cloud-based, you need to really take a good hard look at that application and see if there's other avenues.
I think for some, I noticed Geraldine joined us, and she was waiting for a couple weeks to get her camera to get on her computer, so kudos to that. But for businesses now that are having to go virtually, and they haven't in the past, like, I mean, are there basic things like McAfee, or, I mean, what are some absolute, you know, these are the absolute bare bone thing that you should have on before you even consider, you know, getting your business, you know, and you using it from home? Because I think that, you know, I keep getting messages, hey, that's out of, you know, date or whatever, you have to update this, that, and the other thing, you know, and I never know if I need to do that, if that's important. I mean, you guys are running our stuff, so I don't worry about it, but for other people, I think they probably do worry, and they don't know what should be scanning their system, and what they should be doing to ensure that, you know, the neighbor in 705 is not, you know, on their line and getting their information, and you know, looking at their stuff. Or is there certain, I'm talking basic stuff, you guys are a level, you know, that's, I think, beyond a lot of us. For some, no, they understand, but are there some absolute, this is what you need to make sure that you need to install, that, you know, you should have on before you even consider remotely using your business online?
Nathan, can you take us down maybe a virtual desktop or terminal services, the ability to work from home in a secure environment on existing equipment that still gives me all of the business applications and tools that I need?
Sure. So from an application standpoint, from a workforce perspective, you want to take a peek at, if all of your architecture lives in your office and you got to give access to get back to that, I would highly recommend, away from leveraging things like VPN clients to come into the environment, right? As someone that maintains data centers and secures organizations, and look to more of a way to open a door to that organization securely so that you can view in and actually be on site with all of your other applications. So when you start talking about types of applications, things like Manne mentioned, remote desktop services, servers, formerly known as terminal services. There's Citrix, which Pedro mentioned, which is a way to give folks access to either applications or to a desktop in the environment. And then it's essentially as if you're dialing from a remote location into and viewing into your organization as if you were physically there, but you're not. You're virtually attending it through some sort of software. And from Nancy, to answer your question, what are some very incremental pieces you need for all of those pieces to work? There's really 3 points along the IT delivery that I pay attention to. Endpoint security, that would be your workstations, right? Your laptops, your workstations that are out and about. Antivirus, anti-malware. At an absolute minimum, that with the latest definitions need to be there. The most up-to-date operating system therein as well, right? If you're several security patches and releases behind, you open yourself up to major, major issues. Moving your way into the technology stack itself is securing your network, making sure that from a internet perspective that you are secured. So those are your firewalls, your intrusion protection platforms, your deep packet inspection platforms. And then out from there, you have your data center or your application delivery and ensuring that operating systems are up to date. Again, the same message, antivirus, anti-malware are also up and running. So those are from a foundational building block perspective, do those things first. And then some more of the advanced technologies, though very simple to set up and get up and running for you, to be able to take that secured workstation and be comfortable to move it outside of your organization and gain access into your environment securely, safely, without any risk of folks infecting your corporate environment or impacting it. The great news about cloud delivered applications coming from, say, Microsoft or Google or others, is that all of those applications are kept up to date. Security concerns and threats are handled behind the scenes. And all you need to have is a web browser and a secure access into that using multi-factor authentication, meaning you log in and then it possibly sends you a text message, or it asks you for a Google Authenticator code so that it knows who you are, right? You use your username, your password, and you also, as a secondary form of authentication, you got a text message to a smartphone that only you physically have, something like that. So that's kind of fundamentals. There's much more advanced platforms out there like virtual desktop infrastructure that are a bit more involved, but those are the simplistic ones. I think that Microsoft's terminal services platform, or RDS servers, and and Citrix concentrators are going to be the easiest path to gain people access from the outside world inside.
So I would think with some of the people that are on, and I'm including myself in this category, we don't know what we don't know. So we don't know, like how vulnerable our system is and what, like really where our weakness points are. Is there some kind of, I don't know, something that can be diagnostic on our systems, or because I don't think everybody works with a server. I may be wrong, but looking at who's on with us, I'm not sure everybody has a server type of system. So is there something that you can recommend that, we can, or is that dangerous to do some of these checks because it opens you up if you're not using, a reputable company? Or is there something that we can be looking at to see if we have, those, antivirus on our systems and that we're up to date with our operating systems, those points that you were saying in the last section?
I would say the first one from an antivirus perspective is if you go to the store and you buy an antivirus program off the shelf and you install it and you say, good, I'm secure. When you're in an organization that might have multiple people, that becomes a sprawling issue with grabbing something off the shelf, installing it, and thinking you're good to go, because only you as an individual can see if you're compliant. And I would say that probably, just a guesstimate, 80+% of the folks that handle that route don't know if they're up to date. So looking at it from maybe a wider scenario, purchasing an actual business account on some of these antivirus, anti-malware platforms that you as a business owner or as an IT personnel can take a look and see all the individual endpoints that are being protected. And you can compare that to your staff and say, everybody's good to go except for Manne Strand, and we need to make sure that he runs an update or reboots at some point, right? So paying attention to those things. Everybody is there to sell you some kind of an advanced security platform, but if you buy a one-off, it's up to you to maintain and keep it up to date. Secondarily to that piece, unfortunately, we live in a world where a business plan for a corporation that's doing really good today is solely based on something called penetration testing, which you can hire an outside party to come in, look inside of your environment, and test all of the ways in and test all of the ways out, and then come back to you with a health report that says, here are the areas of concern and where you should focus mitigating those as soon as possible. So that's a current business model that people are being very successful at, unfortunately.
Can we break that down just a little bit for some of the users maybe in this meeting? And that might lean into many IT companies, ourselves included, offer desktop support. And within our desktop support, we look into your individual PC, we look at the operating system, get it up to the latest revision, ensure the anti-malware and antivirus is up to date and managed so you don't have to go and update it. And any reputable IT service provider will offer that. Now, they may charge $39 a month or $29 a month. And while that may seem expensive to some of us, it's not until you need it or there's a breach that you realize, or you can't get to your files. So I would again consider talking to one of either our experts or your IT service company. Talk to them about desktop support. They're a call away. They'll take care of your desktop. They'll ensure that you have the right software installed, give you a peace of mind so that you can do what you're looking to do, and that's grow your business and reopen your business. And that's what we really want to get across today. We'll do our side. Just give us a call. We want you to be able to do your side safely, securely, in the environment that you need to do it.
Okay, that's perfect, because we'll make sure that your information is added into the comments also on Facebook with contact information, because I think a lot of people aren't sure, and you know, as you say, there's a lot of different companies that are offering services that may not be what they need, and you know, the price gets very exorbitant, and we're looking at a plan that's going to be modified for their business. And so I think the fact that you guys look at each business on its own and make sure that you're putting together what their needs are, you know, I know that with our chamber, we are we're so old school. However, you know, it keeps us running, and we really haven't had issues, you know, and our computers have been, you know, fine in that, because that was one of the biggest concerns. Like, my other computer is so old, it's not even supported by Microsoft anymore. So, but it's got everything on that. So if anything ever happened, you know, it's a huge concern for me. So, you know, we love having Morsecom, making sure that we're safe and up to date. There was also a few more comments though. We have, oh, okay, let's go back a little bit here. Okay, so yes, the goddess is Carolina on the Chambers page, so thank you for all that she does for us. Adam was saying securing your website with an SSL certificate is a great start for all companies. Luis was asking, with an application like Zoom, are there any other plugins available to secure data and presentations or shared information?
Yep, I did take a stab at that. Unfortunately, Luis, I'm not that up on Zoom plugins there, say, to make it more secure. I would like to point out that early on, when COVID initially started, there was a lot of security hurdles that people ran into, primarily because the versions that you're running, you aren't forced to upgrade them. So you could be running an older version of Zoom. And unfortunately, folks that are much smarter than anybody on this platform right now, speaking to you today, have found ways to exploit those previous versions and take access to them. So making sure when the system comes up and says, hey, you're running an older version of Zoom, or Microsoft Teams does it behind the scenes where you don't even see it, but Zoom and others, WebEx, Join Me, things like that, they come up and say, hey, let's update. And you need to pay attention to that, because they're updating it for a pretty good reason. It's often not just features. More likely it's a bug or it's some sort of a security exploit.
Thank you.
Can you explain, because I thought that was a good one, about precautions to be used for cell phones, and you said mobile device management secures the endpoint and pushes and pulls software and security solutions. Okay, no idea what that means. So if you can explain that a little bit, that would be great, because we are all 24/7 on our phones, and it's probably the most likely point of where, you know, things can go wrong. So if you don't mind explaining that a bit more there, Nathan.
No, not a problem. So like any sort of an endpoint, right? An endpoint to me is something that one of your remote workers or a user is leveraging. It could be a physical telephone, a laptop, a smartphone, a tablet, you name it. And there's really two flavors in the marketplace today. You have your Android flavor and you have your iOS or your Apple flavor of smart devices that are out there. The first and foremost thing that you need to be prepared with is keeping those OSs up to date, right? You need to make sure that you're logged in with whomever the cell phone manufacturer is to get the latest updates. If it's Apple, the latest updates, they're often pushed in the evenings. You can schedule it the whole 9 yards. The additional piece of that is this bring your own device push that's been going on for some time. And organizations have adopted it. Others have basically said, we're going to give you a device, and once you leave our organization, you will give that thing back to us, which is an additional strain to organizations to pick up additional fixed assets for them to distribute. So I'm a big fan of bring your own device, primarily because we have platforms like mobile device management, which is just like those centralized business platforms that you can kind of see everything that's going on in the organization. You do the same with cell phones. So when somebody comes on or hires on, you simply log into your mobile device management platform, fill out the necessary information. Often they synchronize with Active Directory and other things, and send somebody a simple email or a text message. And that's an enrollment message. They click on a link and it enrolls their phone into your mobile device management, which is stored in the cloud. And what it does is it automatically pushes to them authentication information of their new role in the environment. And it also pushes things like security certificates and applications that are needed, right? So if a cell phone doesn't have Outlook on it, or let's say you leverage SAP or QuickBooks or something that you need to gain access to, a mobile device management platform can also push those applications to the smart device and provide them everything they need to work inside of that smart device. And then if they were to leave the organization, you just simply de-enroll them, and all of those pieces and assets software-wise come off of the phone.
Okay, so Dominic, we'll have to talk. I love that. We do have QuickBooks, and yeah, it's just loaded on my old one. So yes, that would be nice to be able to have that with my mobile machine. So that was great. I don't think, well, I mean, I had no idea you could do that. So that's a really fabulous idea, especially if you don't have the funds to be able to purchase all the hardware, like, you know, the chamber, we all have our own phones. So to be able to have that kind of management system on there that you can just remove when somebody leaves or comes on, you know, I think that's wonderful. So thank you for that. So are there any other questions? They've had some really great information. Oh, of course. Okay, one more. What about backdoor apps that get downloaded to a phone and the user gives the app permission for device access and hacking takes place?
No worries. And thanks for the question, Lewis. The biggest concern, I think, from my perspective, and the mobile device management platforms provide telemetry information from the smart device. Often when applications are downloaded, they have to be authenticated, and there's ways of getting other applications on the phone. I think we can agree that that's a possibility, but if the OS is up to date, these marketplace managers that are pushing out applications like the App Store with Apple or the marketplace on the Android side, all of those are constantly being vetted and trimmed, right? So applications that could have been an exploit are being removed. And from an MDM perspective, is if those applications are flagged, right? If the mobile device management sees an application that would be considered a concern or a threat, it won't provide you access to your critical information on the smart device. That's one piece you can look at. There's also, unfortunately, there's platforms that can handle antivirus, anti-malware on smart devices in today's world as well. So I think that while nothing can stay in front of people that are looking to do malicious things, and I constantly stand on that soapbox and say that there's really best efforts to try to mitigate, and then if something were to occur, say data loss or something of that sort, you always have contingencies like backup and restoration that you can leverage on organizations that are impacted by malicious activity. So I wish I had a much better comment on the backdoors and ability to hack into a device. the smartest people in the industry that are working towards protecting you are often dwarfed by the folks that are trying to do bad things and malicious things.
Okay, well, before we wrap up, you have been watching Chamber Chat with the Greater Palm Bay Chamber of Commerce, and we have our guest Morsecom with us today, and that was fabulous information. And they are being very generous. They have some giveaways. So I think Dominic is going to announce who our winners were or how you can win this prize. So I will turn it over to Dominic right now.
Thanks, Nancy. Yeah, so thank you guys again, everyone that joined today. Thank you for taking the time, out of your busy day and to spend with us and to learn a little bit more about, how we are helping businesses, migrate through these hard times and making sure that they do have the tools at their disposal to navigate through this properly. And just to reiterate one more time what Manne said, make sure that I highly encourage you reach out to a technology partner and make sure that we are that your business is set up for success and that you have all the tools that you need. And we're here as well. So always feel free to reach out and we'll be more happy to help. I will be reaching out through Messenger to the winners. We have 3 giveaways that we wanted to do, something fun for everybody who attended the meeting today. So we're going to go through everybody that actually signed in through Zoom and then the attendees that were watching through Facebook. And we'll message you directly and let you know and get your information so we can go ahead and mail those gifts to you. We have a couple gift cards that we're doing for Pizza Vola, awesome restaurant to go check out locally. And then we wanted to give some a technical tool that you can use for your business too. So we have a wireless access point through a manufacturer named Ruckus that we use that allows you to, you have a secure Wi-Fi network within your work environment, whether that's remotely or in your office. So thank you again, Nancy. Thank you guys to the Palm Bay Chamber. Thank you, everybody. And that's all I got.
Okay, well, thank you everyone for joining us, and hopefully you'll be one of those winners that Dominic will be reaching out to, so check your messages. And if you have questions, so we'll make sure that on the Facebook stream, we'll make sure that we have their contact information in there, both email addresses and phone numbers, so you're able to reach out if you have more questions or, want to reach out to have them check your business. One of the things we have coming up will be our Disaster Recovery Expo. We are going to go virtual with that. We are trying to put that in the planning stages right now. And last year, Nathan was one of the panelists. And I think, we didn't just talk about hurricanes. I know Florida is known for that, and that tends to be what most of the disaster recoveries focus on. But this pandemic is a whole new ballgame and not something that a lot of people, were prepared for. So we are covering the gamut. So please look for that. We will, once again, it will be almost like a conference online, and we'll have some sponsors, we'll have panelists, we'll have Q&A. I think it'll be very, very informative like it was last year. It's just going to be in a different kind of environment. And we obviously want to invite Morsecom to be on that again, because that was just, I think, so informative. And yeah, we want to make sure we get our panelists lined up, but we are working on that. So please join us. We have our calendar of events coming up. We've continued, we're doing more now than actually we did when we were live. So we are still doing our Brevard Business Professionals. We still have our luncheons. We have 2 chamber chats a week. We have next week is our member optimization meeting. So join Carolina if you have not filled out your profile. Join us 8 to 9:30 on Tuesday for Brevard Business Professionals. And if there are anything that you are wanting from us, any kind of information, we are more than happy to get guest speakers on for chamber chats. We also have the 4 chambers have sent out the survey. The county commissioners have some funds from the CARES Act, and they're wondering how that money should be distributed. So if you can please fill that survey out. It is going out independently today from us. either today or tomorrow morning. So you'll see that. Please respond. If you can let as many people know as possible to respond. You know, we are wanting to help the local community and the local businesses. So if we can tell or assist the county commissioners with making great choices on how to spend that money to assist your businesses, you know, we're looking for that feedback. So if you can fill that out, that would be great. I know surveys are a pain, but it's only, I think, 9 or 10 questions. And then also too, if you can put your information on the Palm Bay, the City of Palm Bay, their Back to Business page. Anybody that is a registered business in the City of Palm Bay, they are wanting to get the word out on who's open for businesses. We're going to have I think a virtual ribbon cutting experience coming up in June. So look for that. And we really want to get the word out about your business, your hours, and the opening. So make sure you sign up for that. And if you call the chamber, it goes to my cell phone, so somebody's always going to be answering the phone unless I'm on a Zoom call. So please don't forget to reach out to us. And I hope you're all staying safe. For those that have opened, that you have protocols in place. We also have that really great guide that we sent out that gives you very good and distinct operating procedures for reopening your business. So thank you all, and we will see you on either on our next chamber chat or Tuesday on our Brevard Business Professionals. So thank you all once again. Thanks to Morsecom for this great information, and I think we will sign off at this point. So thank you all.